let's get this going here, because May and June is graduation season. It's a time when many start thinking about career opportunities and job changes. One of the important things to have when it comes to finding that job, the right resume. There are a number of resumes out there that fail to make the grade, and here to talk a little bit more about that is somebody that's joined us a number of times on the program. In fact, she joins us once again now on Big Mornings in the Big AM 1380. Prominent thought leader on the impact of technology on society, work, women's leadership, and careers. And she's authored 11 books, including the latest, Employed for Life, 21st Century Career Trends. It's always good having her on Big Mornings in the Big AM 1380. She joins us right now, Dr. Tracey Wilen. Dr. Wilen, welcome back. Good to have you back with us again.
Oh, thank you, Ted, and good morning to you.
Yeah, and it is that time of the year again. You know, you got graduations, and it's not just college, it's high school kids, too, because obviously, when it comes to getting summer jobs, or for that matter, because there are a lot of opportunities, say, for example, in a lot of areas where, coming out of school, getting work out of high school as well, there are opportunities there as well, and it's very important to have a resume that clicks, and there are so many things that can go wrong with a resume. That's one of the reasons you're here talking about this, right?
That's right, and actually you bring up a very good point. High school students and college students should understand what a resume is and get comfortable with using that as a way to communicate and deliver their success to an employer. I meet a lot of students who don't even learn about a resume, unfortunately, until they've, at graduation point. So I want to make sure that they get going with it.
Yeah, indeed, because, even if it's a situation, you have a high school student and they're looking for summer work. Say, for example, at one of the area resorts that we have around here. It may seem like something, they just go in there, fill out an application, and that's it. But really, if they end up having a good-looking resume, that can be something that really, that works to their advantage at this point. So, yeah, you never can learn too early about a good-looking resume. So let's look at those and the 5 mistakes that people make with their resumes. First of all, let's start with the first one, and that is this: spamming resume and assuming that the resume will get you a job. Tell us more about that, Tracey.
That's right. So I think a lot of people assume that if they shoot a resume into a job opening, that's actually going to get them the job, and it's not. The role of the resume is to really get you an interview. Mm-hmm. And so as a result of that, not understanding this, people just spam generic resumes to thousands of jobs out there, and then they wonder why they haven't heard back. And it's because when an employer posts a job with a job description and criteria, that's what they're looking for. And as a student, you say, well, I'm a really good person. Well, that's nice. We hire really good people, but we hire people who can actually start working on day one. So what I'm looking for in that resume is you meeting all the criteria of the job that you're pursuing. So I almost recommend to students, instead of just doing a generic resume to everything and anything, just pick one job a day and analyze. Send out only one a day, but make sure you match all the criteria because you'll increase your chances.
Now, okay, this is interesting because really what we're talking about is basically finding out about the job, and is it pretty much a case of customized? And that's important too. Sometimes you do have to change your resume from here and there to be able to match up with the job. That's important, isn't it? Well,
here's how I'd rather position that, because then people will put in facts that aren't relevant.
Okay.
View your resume as a press release. You've got one page to capture the attention of the recruiter or hiring manager who's looking for specifics for the job that you're applying for. So in that one page, what information can you bring to highlight why you should be selected for the marketing job over thousands of people who are also vying for that, right? So you need to keep the criteria there, your experience, your education, your graduation dates, that all stays. That doesn't change or get customized. But how you wrap your experience around or your coursework around and why you are the best person for that marketing job, that's what I want you to do.
Okay, so basically with that, I know that you have some resume tips to pass along, 5 in particular when it comes to, when it comes to being able to put together that resume that really gets the attention of the hiring manager, because that's what you want. You want to make sure, because they get thousands of resumes in many cases, and and having one that stands out is more than just important, it's necessary, right?
That's right. So some of the tips are, if you have a title, use a clear title. Industry, which is like retail or energy, right? Those are the things they're looking for. Your city and your state. Many recruiters tell me that people are leaving off cities and states and zip codes.
Really?
Because they say, oh, I could work anywhere. But that's nice, but the hiring manager wants somebody local. So they say, make it really easy for them to find you and match you. Have a, one page, especially if you're a student. One page is enough. If you're an adult who is with seasoned experience, 2 pages is enough. And match it to the job. So make sure it's very easy to understand that your experience is completely relative to the job at hand.
Yeah, indeed. Now, let's talk about the second mistake, and that is you note that resumes are unfocused too long. I think you just mentioned that a little bit. It's a problem is recruiters will give resumes basically 30 seconds, and they'll look them over, they'll toss them if they don't see anything that interests them. It's interesting because one of the things that job recruiters mention to those who are looking for work is having a 30-second elevator speech, if you will, so you can get the attention and get things focused for when you're talking to somebody about what you're looking for when it comes to work. And it sounds like that same principle kind of works in the same way when it comes to your resume as well, because you're given 30 seconds to make a good impression.
That's right, and it's really, it is true that you get a 20 to 30-second scan. Just imagine a recruiter with a huge pile of resumes on his or her desk, and they're going to go, they have the job opening, they know what they're looking for. They're looking for a marketing person who lives in Wisconsin, who has this title and this kind of experience, and they're going to look for that, and they're going to scan it, and if they don't see it right away, they're going to throw it in the trash and go on to the next one. So you're competing with thousands of people who are highly qualified for the job. So you have to make sure that you pass that scan. And I'll tell you even more why, because there's software today. And the software, a lot of this applicant tracking software, is parsing resumes and doing the same thing. So if it's not finding the exact words or titles or industry or city, it's going to move on, just like a recruiter would.
Yeah, and I know that, who's ever listening to this are going to ask you one question right now. They're going to say, doctor, or they're going to say, Tracey, or in some cases they'll even say, hey, Wilen. I need some way to make it stand out. What can be done, really, to make a resume short and eye-catching? What tips do you have regarding that?
Okay, so number one is if you're applying for a job, really, particularly as an adult, the only thing that the recruiter or the hiring manager is going to care about is your last job. And is that job that you had relevant to the job you're applying for? So, for example, you might have had a manufacturing job and now you're applying for a marketing job. Well, your chances are going to be pretty slim because there's going to be a lot of marketing people applying for that same job. So I would, if you're in manufacturing, I would pursue something that is relevant to that experience. They're going to be looking for quantifiable metrics. What did you accomplish? Action verbs. What did you accomplish and do while you were at that job that's relevant to the job opening? And make sure that you build a story so that you show that you can contribute. Contribution is key today. Task lists are out. What did you contribute? How did you build the team? How did you increase profit? How did you decrease costs? These are all very salient words and really activities that people do that the recruiter will be looking for. Okay,
so we're talking about, say, for example, for an adult, making sure that your first job is the one thing you focus on. Now, let's move this into another arena because we're talking about students. Be it a high school student, be it a college student. They really don't have that first job to work off of unless it's a situation where they have had a job of prominence. And I know there are a lot of people, say, for example, in broadcasting, who have ended up working their way into, say, for example, a part-time job, working either radio, television, doing a number of different things, and that might help them when it comes to their career. But for a lot of people who are coming out of college at this point, the experience that they have working off of is either like a summer job where they can demonstrate what kind of a worker they were, or hopefully, if they're smart, they have some sort of internship in the field that they're looking at getting into. So how are things different from a student coming out of college putting together a resume that'll impress a hiring manager rather than an adult at this point, Tracey?
Sure. So students need to realize that everything counts. It's just how you word what you did. Whether it's a summer job or you volunteered or had an internship, they need to write it up like a job. Even if you didn't get paid for it, that's work, and that's skills and experience. In fact, if you have volunteered, that's actually looked at in a positive way by employers because so many firms now do a lot of outreach. If you started a job, did a startup business, I'd get that on that resume because that's very powerful stuff. It means that you're entrepreneurial. If you even did something like babysitting, that means, you had to go out and market and get yourself jobs, and also you have people care business, right? Mm-hmm. If you worked in Walmart, you have retail business. If you helped with a political campaign, you're a telemarketer. So all of these have very valued skills and experience that a student can bring. And the other thing that students do is they work on teams in their coursework. Teams is everything in companies today to show that you can lead a team and be part of a team. And that's very important. So if you can really use the language of business to translate what you did in school to the business person, they get it. They know you haven't been working very long. They want to see that you can translate and articulate what you did and did well.
Do you remember what you put down in your first resume, say, for example, coming out of college or whatever the case, and in order to get, because I know it's a totally different time because, things are a lot more competitive now, and really it's a situation where when it comes to, people coming out of college, that market is getting very competitive as well when it comes to going after jobs. But do you remember basically, when you were coming out of college, what you ended up putting on your resume in order to get that first gig of yours?
So, that was years ago, and there was a different kind of format. You always had to have the objective. A lot of people really question the value of the objective, and many are using a summary or highlights, which is a more powerful overview of your success, right? You remember the press release, eye-catching.
Right.
Also, we did more task lists, and task lists, we assume that you've done all these activities. What people are really looking for is how you did something for the firm or for your school. So I think it shifted so much that what we did in the past is not really relevant anymore today.
Okay.
And so I would encourage students to look at LinkedIn profiles, look at people in your own peer set who've gotten jobs, and looked at the kind of language and words that they're using to give you that guidance.
And on top of that, if they're not on LinkedIn yet, do it because it's a very important tool, right?
Yeah, and LinkedIn has a lot of resources for students. The other thing as a student is don't apply to jobs over your head. It's just a waste of the employer's time and a waste of your time. Go to the career section of a company's website, and a lot of times it's segmented just for students or graduates. That's the kind of stuff that you're going to have to position for. Once you get inside a firm, you can prove your value and worth and make some lateral moves. But, I had one student who started applying for manager jobs in an industry that she had no experience in. And I just said, why are you wasting the recruiter's time? Because there's 10,000 people who are qualified, who are applying for that job. And so you just wasted your time and the hiring manager's time in looking at that, if it even got that far.
All right. Well, tell you what, we've gotten through two, and seeing that we got June coming up, there's still plenty of time to talk to grads as well as others about tips when it comes to the resume. So why don't we continue this next month then, and that way we'll have a reason to get together and talk more about resumes. How about that?
Oh, I'd love that. Thank you very much.
All right, Dr. Tracey Wilen joining us. She knows about resumes. She knows about workforce issues and all of that, joining us on Big Mornings in the Big AM 1380. You got plenty of resources to get the information you espouse on the on a number of different sources online, right, Doctor?
Yes, my website is TraceyWilen.com, TraceyWilen.com. I am on LinkedIn, so students can reach me there, Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter, and I'd love to hear from them.
And I'm proud to be one of the connections of Dr. Wilen as well. So that comes in, and having you as one of my connections as well. It's great. So, Dr. Wilen, thanks a lot. We'll talk next month, okay?
Yes, thank you. Talk to you soon.
8:57 on the Big AM 1380.